I'm Emma.
I'm Mia.
And this is And Run!
Today we're talking about a misdemeanor case and a felony case. Our misdemeanor case, we happen to know the guy who did to the guy and arrested the guy. So, State of Ohio versus Herman Diddy. It took place in Claremont County on October 17th in 2020, which is really not that long ago. Kind of is. It's been 5 years.
5?
It's crazy. Means Dyer's old. Grandpa. This was for aggravated menacing, the first degree of a misdemeanor. Herman Diddy sent shots to the ground from a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol. This was in an attempt to frighten his neighbor due to the neighbor's dog barking. My dog barks all the time and nobody shoots at him, but
Yeah, bro, that's wild.
that's literally insane.
Thanks for doing your job, Dyer.
He was sentenced to the Claremont County Jail for a period of 180 days, and he had to pay the fine of $250. Herman pleaded not guilty to this offense. Many continuances occurred, but finally, on May 13th, in 2021, there was a guilty finding. Sentences on the case. Charge 1 of aggravated menacing. That's an insane, crazy guy, and I wonder how he's doing now.
Probably not good.
No, I'd expect not. If you were insane enough to shoot at the ground and the dog was making you mad, I'm sure
If
you're not
you're
living
getting
right.
mad over a dog barking, time to take a nap.
Time to take a nap. I wonder how old he was too.
Right. That concludes our misdemeanor. Would be it's a cult called Heaven's Gate. Was a mass suicide. Back in the 70s it was started. The leader, Marshall Applewhite, the famous cult leader, led a religious group known as the Heaven's Gate. The belief was that the followers would be transformed from their human nature and rejecting life to be saved by a UFO and become immortal into heaven. This man, Marshall Applewhite, convinced quite a few people to live under his brain.
I have no clue how one man has that much power.
One man convinced 39 members have died. 39 members died on March of 1997. They were all convinced, and once they all did it on the same night, right?
Mm-hmm. All together.
By putting bags over their head, and they had their late night snack, applesauce and pudding, laced with phenobarbital. You have to leave that in. Washed down with vodka. They laid themselves to sleep, covering their upper region of their bodies with a purple cloak, believed that this was the day that they saw the sign of a comet. So the night of the comet was supposed to hit Earth. They all believed that in order to keep themselves immortal in heaven, they would have to take their life here on Earth. And to me, that is absolutely wild.
Mm-hmm. That was a third-degree felony. And a third-degree felony was the assist of a suicide, knowingly causing another person to commit or attempt a suicide.
How do you think people get involved with a cult? Like, what do you think? Like, is it a need? Do people feel like they're missing something? Or is it just an accident?
I'm not sure. I've never been invited to a cult necessarily, so I wouldn't exactly know, but I'm sure there's something like you're longing for something.
Mm-hmm.
I'd assume.
Right. I've never had the desire to follow somebody like that.
Yeah.
Like, I barely listen to my parents. Why would I listen to a grown man that says the world's about to blow up?
And it's not like he was like a nice looking man. Like you could tell there was something like
we'll insert
scary.
some pictures.
But you could tell there was something up with him. Yes. And the way they had the people laid out just something insane. Is there any other mass suicides that you're aware of?
Top of my head would be the Jonestown, Jim Jones. I'm not too familiar with it, so I don't want to give you any crazy facts, but there I believe what we read was at least 900
people, yeah.
900 people committed suicide. And that's probably the biggest mass suicide of today.
Yeah, the one that I've ever heard of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but that was another cult.
there was the woman in India who and I think this still goes on till today. It's not as big of a thing, but they're scared to get raped and other things, and the women would take their lives, and they take their children's lives too if they had girls that were children, and
just out of fear that it could
fear
happen.
of the man.
Fear of the man.
That is insane. Man or bear? I'm choosing bear every day.
We choose the bear.
We choose the bear.
What are your guys' opinions on a cult?
Let us know in the link down below.
I hope I never hear about any of you guys starting a cult.
I don't think I could ever personally join.
I could never. I always think I'm wrong. I could never tell somebody to believe what I believe. Like,
yeah, I could never shove it down someone. I mean, I feel like everybody has their own perspective on life and their own mindset
everybody
on
has a different brain.
on what life is. And that's a belief in itself. Like, what you believe in your head is its own belief. So if you say you're not a part of anything, necessarily, it doesn't mean that you don't have your own opinions. And I don't think anybody's opinion should be pushed onto another person for any reason. If you were in that situation, do you think you would be convinced? I mean, I couldn't. I don't think there's anything that you could do
No.
to really convince me to
Nobody on
to
this
take
earth
my own life. Yeah.
could convince me to take my life.
If there was clear things like going on in the world and it was happening in my face, and I made the decision on my own, maybe that's another
it would always
situation.
be on your own.
Yeah.
It would always be my own decision.
But if it was somebody willingly telling me and I had to take the choice, I don't think I could ever make that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and back to this Heaven's Gate mass suicide. A lot of the kids, there was kids in it too that grew up there. It was a couple of decades long. It ended when all those people.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still groups of it in places because cults never die.
The oldest was she was a woman, I believe,
Yeah.
and she was 90 something, and then the youngest was a man, and he was 23, and I'm sure they all heavily believed everything that they saw.
Yeah.
And there was videos left, their videos left for their families and everything like that. Basically a suicide note, and they didn't even realize what they were doing at the time. They believed that was right, and it's heartbreaking, genuinely. How do you think the families feel after seeing those videos?
We did watch a couple of videos on families, just taken back on it. I don't know how they got involved with this. I hope they figure out what's right. A lot of them were before they even passed. And you just never know. And it would be absolutely heartbreaking to see somebody you love go into something like that. But
knowing the outcome too.
It's odd. You don't know how people's brain works. You don't know how gullible people are. And I don't even want to call these people gullible because that's a big deal. How that's more than just gullible. That's convinced to kill themselves. It's crazy.
I mean, there was a woman whose her son went into it, and she hadn't talked to him almost all 20 years that he was in it. She talked to him 2 times. So they had this man had complete control over their lives, which is absolutely absurd that one man could do that. And I'm sure he believed it with all his heart himself too. There's something genuinely not right with him, or was not right with him. And I mean, that woman, she still has all his belongings, everything that was in his pockets, everything.
That's your kid that.
And she's never gonna let him go, and it's just awful that she even had to deal with it. And I'm sure there's loads of other families that had to experience the same thing.
Yeah, I'm still grieving today. I'm sure there's a lot. Do you think that they, truly believed they did kill themselves? They did take it. They did eat it. They did know what was in it. And they were involved. So do you think that any of these people maybe had some kind of thoughts in the back of their head and just were and then they just couldn't get out?
I'm sure there was a a condescending thought of fear, for sure. Especially when making those videos, knowing that that's gonna be the last anybody sees of them, besides when they're getting rolled out. I'm sure they and when you're making those videos, it's not like you could just run. You have a fear of, what if I don't follow this and I do die with not being able to live eternally? But there's also the fear of, what if I'm wrong?
Yes.
And I think that affects us in every day, in every aspect, and every choice we do. It just affects these people a lot more than what it usually does for other people.
Yeah. It's dangerous. You don't know
It's
what you can get into.
devastating.
Be careful. Deuces, y'all.
Goodbye. See you never.